Make ready. Fire!
As U.S. forces streamed out of bases in the United States bound for Southeast Asia, few would have imagined the M16 rifle, which seemed to have such a rosy future, would encounter such controversy. The weapon, which had garnered such glowing reports from American advisors and Vietnamese troops, would fall victim to fatal, last-minute decisions and rumor that fueled bad choices at the troop level. The M16 rifle was headed into choppy waters. The M16 rifle is one of the most iconic weapons of the post-World War II era. American fighting men have carried the M16 in one form or another into combat for more than 50 years, from Vietnam to the present day. The story of the original M16, whose descendants the M16A4 and M4 carbine today fight in Syria and Iraq against the Islamic State, goes all the way back to the 1950s and the institutional soul-searching that came after another war, Korea. If the studies were true, a smaller, lighter round fired from a lighter rifle was the future. Although smaller, such a bullet would be more practical at realistic engagement ranges. Soldiers would find a small caliber weapon, with its lighter recoil, easier to shoot, prompting them to shoot more often. Soldiers could also carry more of the lighter cartridges than the big .3006 rounds of the M1 garnered. The reports also suggested that a weapon that fired a slightly dispersed pattern of bullets or projectiles could compensate for near misses on the battlefield. An infantryman might miss an enemy soldier's head by 2 inches, but if his weapon fired multiple projectiles that fell into a tight pattern around the aiming point, that infantryman might still hit his target. Hence, the armed services plowed considerable effort into exploring weapons that had multiple barrels, cartridges that held multiple bullets, and steel dart flechettes that could solve the dispersion problem, but after 7 years the research bore no operational weapon. The simplest, most obvious way to achieve a slightly dispersed pattern was through burst fire from a small caliber, high-velocity weapon. Meanwhile, a new rifle design from the Armalite Corporation was gaining a lot of attention. Developed by small arms designer Eugene Stoner, the AR-10 rifle was a lightweight rifle that fired the 7.62mm NATO cartridge. The 7.62 cartridge was similar to but less powerful than the .308 Winchester hunting cartridge. The weapon featured a pistol grip, carrying handle, and loaded from a 20-round magazine. The weapon used a novel gas-operated, direct impingement design, in which gunpowder gases were diverted via a tube to push the bolt carrier group, unlocking the bolt from the breech face and sending it rearward to eject the empty casing and chamber of fresh cartridge. The AR-10 experienced considerable teething problems, but the sleek, space-age design still had its backers. The AR-10 lost the competition for the next U.S. Army rifle to the T-44 rifle, later designated the M14 battle rifle. Despite this, on May 1, 1957, 10 days after the M14 was chosen, the U.S. Army ordered 10 AR-15 rifles, virtually the same rifle but ported to the smaller .222 Remington round for testing and evaluation. The AR-15 design was purchased from Fairchild Armalite in 1959 by legendary arms maker Colt. In the early 1960s, the AR-15 design was refined, the cartridge renamed .223 Remington, and the cocking lever relocated from the top of the rifle to behind the carry handle. Tests in Asia proved the lighter, smaller caliber weapon was popular with shorter-statured Asians, but buyers could not qualify for U.S. military aid funding because the U.S. military did not use the AR-15.
Shooters, police up all that brass on all yard lines. Police up all that brass on all yard lines.